The way it happened, I was right before the credit bubble burst. I had about 250 properties in 2005, 2006, and I was doing at that point. Are you guys familiar with a rent-to-own or a land contract? Have you guys been taught that? Okay, I was doing a lot of those. So I was doing them in medium-priced incomes and maybe a little bit, or medium-priced homes, maybe a little bit above. So the stuff we're going to show you is more of working-class area, which is a great rental income investing. I was doing maybe a slight step above that, where I was buying stuff on contract and selling stuff on contract. Anyway, I liquidated the majority of my portfolio around that time, and I was introduced to a guy he worked for a national asset management company. Now at that time, it's not as prevalent as it was anymore because there's been changes in regulation, but at that time, a lot of banks would they'd outsource their national asset management to companies whose entire job it was to sell their REO properties. So when a bank would foreclose on a property, they'd call up a NAM, a national asset management company, and they'd say, got another property for you, give me a broker's price opinion. You guys heard the term BPO, right? Give me a BPO, tell me if I need to do anything to get it on the market, tell me what you, and have one of your brokers list it, right? So those national asset manager companies, they would deal with the asset managers inside a bank. So most banks, and they have different terms for them, but most banks have somebody whose entire job it is to deal with the foreclosures in their bank. So like the lady that I know at Bank of America, she actually just got promotion, which is good for me, and good for her. I'm happy for her, obviously. But she primarily was handling California, Nevada, and Arizona. So I met her through a good family friend, and then through that national asset manager, I met a bunch of the asset managers in banks. So then I met, I'm short-circuiting the whole story here, but I knew some private equity funds and some hedge funds and a group called 5 Mile Capital Partners, some other guys. So I was helping these asset managers and the national asset management companies move huge bulks of properties to these hedge funds and private equity firms that wanted to buy these assets. Now I think Aaron touched on it, there's private equity now buying a bunch of rental properties. I just got an offer yesterday for all my portfolio. We'll talk about that later. Yeah, finally, right? It took them forever. But so there were guys back then doing that. So I was helping banks move their non-performing assets. So because I developed that relationship, just happened to get a good introduction, I met all these bank asset managers, and then I've just maintained those relationships. And then Aaron touched on it. The way we met, a mutual friend of ours at Merrill Lynch introduced us because I was getting a ton of product, and at that time I wasn't buying for my own portfolio. And I was helping Aaron. I brought Aaron a tape. I said, hey man, I get a lot of properties, and you're buying a lot here in town. So we sent him some leads. Does that answer your question?